And you're
Yes.
telling me that this soldier does not deserve to be protected after he successfully completed boot camp? No, that's bullshit. That's how we fell through the cracks. Because after we completed boot camp, guess what? They shipped us off to the Persian Gulf, to Iraq, to Afghanistan, to Vietnam. And guess what? We got fucked up over there in our heads and in our spirit. And we came back fucked up with issues of alcoholism and self-medication and other things happened to us. Okay,
Yes,
so
sir.
we need to be protected, man. And this HR 4569 would say we are protecting the new soldiers from this ever happening to them. And also we are opening up avenues for the soldiers that have already been wronged and deported, exiled. We're opening up avenues for their cases to be revisited and for them to come back home rightfully to be with their families and be home in the country that they served.
The opinions of the guests and host are their own and do not represent the opinions of Ironclad, the Border Patrol, or the Department of Homeland Security.
We cut through the partisan talking points. We're not interested in perpetuating fear. We're interested in seeking truth, hearing what's really going on America's borderland. Welcome to Borderland, an Ironclad original. Today we're bringing you the second part of our series about deported veterans. I talked to a veteran named Alex Murillo. Alex is one of hundreds of U.S. military veterans who have been deported after run-ins with the law following their service in the United States military. As you'll hear in the interview, Alex was brought to the U.S. at an extremely young age from Mexico by his parents and grew up in Arizona. After high school, he enlisted in the United States Navy, but, as he explains, would later spend 11 years in Mexico in what he refers to as an exile. Here's our conversation. Well, let's talk about it because we're going to get into this and we'll dig deep into this. And, I'm sure you'll have a lot of answers for it all. But what I'd want to do for my audience right now is to give them your backstory. So let's start from your family. They came into this country at what point?
Well, I was a baby when I got to Phoenix, so I don't remember much other than growing up in America, growing up in Phoenix, Arizona as any other kid, going to public school, I'm a product of the public school system, and growing up in and in West Side Phoenix, like I did, my options were few and far between to move myself ahead. So in high school, it was one of the things that you do to get out of the hood is you join the military, man. And I had a pregnant girlfriend at the time. I didn't have any other, I played sports, I was an athlete, but the colleges weren't really calling, you know what I mean? I had so I had a choice, and I said, I'm going to serve my reasons for joining were really simple, man. I want to serve my country. I want to make my family proud, and I want to try to move myself ahead in this world, in this life. Real simple stuff. And
Yeah.
but as it turns out, when you join the military, those ideals and stuff, they change sometimes, and the military does change you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
For better and worse of it. You know what I mean? And I'll be very honest about that. And as a veteran, you know that, bro. So, yeah, coming back from overseas,
Well, I'm going to
I mean,
stop you real quick. I want to stop
yeah,
you real quick
yeah,
because we got time, bro. We're going to get into all of it, man.
okay,
So don't
all right,
feel like you have to rush this story because I want to tell the story. It's important
sure,
for us to tell your whole story because the perspective of your story is not just yours, it's many others who are deported as well. And so we're going to have to dig into this. And so at what point in your youth did you realize that you were considered undocumented or you were illegally permitted, your
Oh, I had a
status?
green card.
Yeah.
Green card. Yeah, I think I believe the military hasn't allowed anybody undocumented like as they say since like Vietnam. Vietnam they were taking everyone and anybody that they could. And what's fucked up, bro, is that one of our veterans, Hector Barrios, he he was a buddy of mine. He was a Vietnam veteran, and he was drafted, and he had no green card, no nothing. And on his DD 214, they put citizen, they put U.S. citizen on there,
Damn.
but he didn't really speak that good English. So when he got in trouble, back when he did after Vietnam. He got in trouble for cannabis, I believe. They deported him because he couldn't really speak for himself, you know.
Yeah.
And this is a Vietnam veteran that was called and that was forced to go to Vietnam, you know. And so yeah, bro. So yeah, all our guys, except for the Vietnam guys that were, some of them were forced to go, and some of them might have been undocumented. All the other guys that served in Persian Gulf and Afghanistan, Iraq, all other veterans are green card veterans.
Green card.
Yeah,
That's
so
something that I didn't know. And
yeah.
having a green card means you're legally permitted. That means that you're in the country legally. And so you would think that's a faster bridge to becoming a citizen after serving. I know when I was a drill sergeant, I had 4 students who had their green cards who became naturalized after graduation of basic training. And I'm curious, during your service when you enlisted, was there any point that they promised you'd get naturalized, and why did it not happen during your enlistment?
For myself, because I grew up in the States, you know, and I always felt myself as American as anybody and everybody. The citizenship thing wasn't like a thing that I was that
Pursuing.
pursuing. Yeah, for my military service. But I will say this, because I did have to present my documentation. Of course, I knew I had a green card. I presented it to my recruiter, and they said, "Oh yeah, oh, don't worry, you're gonna be a citizen automatically. Don't, you know, the Navy's gonna take care of that for you." I was like, "All right, cool." I was like, "Cool, man." You know
The
that's
recruit.
the that's the extent of how much I was worried about ever dealing with this situation that I fell into. I said, "Cool," you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
I left. Dude. I went to boot camp.
The
But as
broken
it turns
promises
out,
of recruiters, right? The broken promises of recruiters. They've all told us something to
yeah,
get us to
bro.
sign that dotted line, bro.
You know that, man. I mean,
Yeah.
I heard. I mean, I've heard some guys thought there was a McDonald's on the ship. You know, they thought they had McDonald's on the aircraft carrier, and
Well,
well, you know, man.
your story is no different than mine. And I wanted to serve my country. I wanted to make my family proud, and I had a daughter on the way as well. And so, any way I was going to be able to get in, like I'll take it. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, let's go. You
Yeah,
know.
bro.
And so,
Yes.
the unfortunate thing was that I was a citizen, and so I've been able to reap all the benefits for it. And if I did get in trouble, I wouldn't have gotten deported. And so, what I find so fascinating and so frustrating is that someone who serves this country, who deployed, you were deployed twice, correct?
Once.
Yeah,
Once.
yeah,
I went on
once.
a Diddy for 3 months, but then I went overseas actually for like 7 months.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and so to do your service for this country, and somehow no one focused on getting you your citizenship. And so when no one focused on getting your citizenship, the position of a green card holder, it's legally permitted, but at any point, if you accidentally you made one mistake, boom, that's all null and void, and you have the potential of getting deported. And
Yeah.
you served how many years in the U.S. Navy?
4.
4 years.
Yeah.
And at
Yeah.
what point when you came back home, I think everyone struggles with transition, and I'm assuming you had no different. You struggled with your own transition, right?
Oh yeah, definitely, man. The transition, like you said, from military life to civilian life, sometimes is not an easy one for a lot of us. And that support system, and it's sometimes not there. You know, from the VA, from the Veterans Assistance programs. At least when I was getting out, they were not there. Those programs for me to transition over, and I mean, honestly, I came out, with an issue with alcoholism
Very
from the
common. Very
military,
common. Yep.
and also self-medication with pain pills.
Again,
That
very
started
common.
when I got hurt, and also kept going when they pulled my wisdom teeth out. And it's just, just things that happen as a veteran that we deal with. I didn't get any help for those things. Um,
Can I ask what
Now
year
I
you got
know.
out? Sorry, I don't mean to cut you off, but can I ask what year
Oh,
you
it's
got out?
okay, bro. 99,
Damn.
99,
Yeah, that
1999.
was way early on, right?
Yeah.
Crazy.
So
Yeah. So
it
people that
was
are,
different, man.
yeah, no, for sure. But what people are listening probably don't realize that at one point the military active duty was supplementing pain with OxyContin,
That's
oxycodone,
what they gave me.
yeah. And so what most people don't realize, I've had a friend who died from an addiction to pain medication, and a lot of veterans who succumb to the addiction of opiates is because the military was prescribing it easily to us veterans, to not even to our veterans, to our active duty members for pain. It was just like, here's Oxycontin, here's Oxycontin. At one point, one of my Ranger buddies was crushing and snorting it because it was before they've implemented new measures to it. And so it is not uncommon for a veteran or for an active duty member to get out of the military with addictions that were created due to their service. The way that the military prescribes medications, but as well as the drinking culture of the military, and no different than the Navy, right? The Navy is a massive drinking culture.
Yeah, bro, definitely. I didn't go in as a drinker or in plans of being a great grand drinker, but I did come out with issues of drinking, and that's just it's the culture, it's the Navy culture, it's the military culture, what have you. But it is one of the scars that, that a lot of us have to bear, among other things, bro. It's just, man, it just comes with the territory, I guess, man.
Yes, sir. Oh, I get it. Moving forward, you struggle with your transition, and then from what I read from our notes is that you found yourself in getting in some trouble. You got into some trouble with was it possession with intent to distribute, correct?
Yeah, bro. I got busted with cannabis. It was quite an amount of cannabis at the time, but I mean, since then, the whole stigma and the culture, everything has changed on cannabis. But at that time, in 2008, I believe, I had lost my job, man. It was like the housing market crash. My mom lost her house, and I didn't have anything. I didn't have any way to make money. I took a job that I shouldn't have taken. You know what I mean? That's it.
I don't take anything from you. I don't think one mistake, identifies someone's character. I'm one that understands the struggles of transitioning out of the military. I'm one that understands the hardships of trying to find a way to make it. You know what I'm saying? And what I don't have a pulse on is being someone with a green card and then getting in trouble and having to get sent back to a country that they don't really know. And that is why it's like this conversation I find is important for us having. When you're coming down to the end of your sentencing, they're going to deport you, don't you?
Yeah, bro. Yeah, they pretty much they did their due diligence, I guess you could say. Once, but what was weird, bro, is that the government tells us, even right now, as we ask them, how many of us have you done this to? How many of our veterans have you deported? Tell us. Now that we're in it, now that we're in this fight, and they say we don't know. We really don't keep track of that stuff, but they do, bro, because every time that I went to immigration court, man, every time that I went in there, and I was still in federal system, I would go in there while I was in prison still. And the judge would say, does anybody in here think that they're a U.S. citizen or a U.S. veteran? Raise your hand. I would raise my hand every time. And he would tell the guard, hey, get him, put him to the side. They would put me to the side every time. And they would run through all the other people, gavel, gone, gone, gone. But for me, they made sure I was a U.S. Navy veteran. They made sure, of what they were doing. And so they do keep track, bro. They just don't want to tell us.
How many do you think, how many veterans currently would you say, do you know the number that are currently deported from America who serve this country?
Well, okay, we don't know, but it's been happening since 1996. So it could be anywhere from 300 to maybe 5,000. We don't know. That's the thing. Like, there should be a number. We can't even put a number to it. We're in the fight. We're trying to bring the soldiers home. We're trying to bring deported veterans home, and we don't even know how many are out there. We're yeah, bro. We're in the fight right now, man.
When you first got deported, where did they deport you to?
TJ through Tijuana, and it was about 1 a.m. You know, so if you ever been a TJ, you know,
At
you
one in
want
the
to be,
morning.
yeah, you want to be in your bed way before 1 in the morning, or you know, it's man. But
So
okay, but another thing, it was scary, bro. But another thing, since my time in Mexico, I have a deep love and appreciation for Mexico, for the motherland, as they call it, you know,
yeah,
for Mexico, the
absolutely.
country, and the people, man, because bro, while we were doing our activism out in the streets and at the border, and we were doing our rallies, and we are raising awareness. So you know, it was the Mexican people that backed us up over there until the American people started finding out about us. Mexicans were like, "Oh yeah, look, they're veterans, son veteranos, and they want to go home. Oh yeah, they should go home. They should definitely go home." And then once the U.S. heard about us and we started doing more interviews, then of course U.S. allies got involved, and we got more and more um, traction. And now, bro, we're coming home slowly but surely. But I think we've got
U.S.
over a
Allies is
hundred guys. Yeah.
U.S. Allies, is that a nonprofit that's helping?
Oh no. Well, that's several nonprofits. That's the ACLU. That's IMDEF, Immigrant Defense Network. That's there's several nonprofits that are, would you say, allies, because they're our
Yeah,
allies, man. They want to bring us home. And
absolutely.
then there's Veterans for Peace, um, just regular Americans that want to bring us home. There's veterans that are now hearing about us saying that's fucked up. Those are our brothers and sisters, because we just had our first female ever come home about 3 months ago, Laura Mesa. She was uh, she was a medic, bro. She was a medic in Afghanistan, and she has, I mean, she has definitely seen some shit out there, and she's tough, man. Oh,
Was
that's
it?
another thing, bro.
Yeah,
Like
go
the
ahead.
the paperwork that I see on our guys mostly has to do with being deported because of drugs, alcohol, a DUI, or a domestic dispute. And I'm talking
No,
about like 80,
absolutely.
85, 87%
No,
of the
absolutely.
cases, man.
Yeah, no. When I've looked into it, that's exactly, it's drug related or alcohol related, some domestic as well. But even the domestics,
Yes.
all drugs and alcohol were involved as well. And if you look at the statistics of it, the majority of them who suffered from post traumatic stress, if you look into it enough, you start to understand that a lot of these veterans weren't getting the services that they deserved. They weren't getting the support that they could have used. If you did serve in the military and you were a green card holder, why hasn't that been pushed through for full citizenship? Because then, in the event that this does happen, say a drug related charge, which alcoholism in itself, the nation struggles with that. You could throw a rock to and hit 4 people who've got DUIs these days, right? And so, but all those people, because they're citizens, they don't get deported to a country that they don't know, right? They don't get deported and exiled like you for 11
Yeah.
years, and so
Yeah,
those are
bro.
things that in this subject is a very sensitive subject, because one, you know, anyone who's trying to become a citizen, they expect you to be perfect. But in the event that someone struggles with post-traumatic stress or combat-related situations, you know what I mean. You would hope that there would be some kind of leniency on these individuals that would support them first through putting them through some kind of
Yeah.
program first, helping them get citizenship first or gain citizenship first, and then last case scenario, if someone doesn't, get themselves situated correctly, well, I mean, the last case scenario should ever be deportation. I think anyone who has served this country should be afforded the opportunity to become a citizen first and then stay in this country. And then, you deal with the laws that are in place at that point, but at least you're in prison in your own country, and at least
Yeah.
you're getting released into your own country, right? Because if you break the law,
Yeah.
you break the law. Okay, fine, and if you get opportunities in this country to salvage that or to fix that by any means necessary, whatever that may be, at least you're still in your own country that you served and you fought so hard to be in.
Yeah, bro.
It's
Definitely.
crazy.
That's it, bro. That's man, you're speaking the facts, bro.
I you know I I've
That's right.
I feel for this topic, right? This topic of the border,
Mm,
just the border topic alone. It's a very complex. I say it
mm,
almost every podcast because it's the only word I can use to explain it. But like one piece of the pie of that complexity is these deported veterans that I feel connected to, and I want to try and help. You know, I can't even imagine sending me to a country that, yes, I'm half Mexican, half Puerto Rican. Send me to Mexico right now, I would feel lost. You know, I'm not fluent in Spanish. You know what I mean? You know I respect my culture. I love Mexico. I love everything about it. It's beautiful, the food, everything. But I still would be intimidated to be dropped there and expected to survive and try and, you know, that's crazy to me, dude.
Yeah.
What did you do for 11 years? What did you do for 11 years to try and, you know, to make money and to feel like home again?
I coached high school football. We started a high school American football team over there. That high school, the Cobach Delfines, they never had a football team. And one day I was going to the gym, and Coach Mike, who was a former coach of Mater Dei High School down in California, which is a pretty well-to-do and famous high school. And he was out there in Baja, saw me going to the gym. He's like, "Young man, you look like you're in some kind of shape. Do you know anything about American football?" I was like, "Yeah, I used to play quarterback in high school." He's like, "Oh, definitely you can help me." And I started helping him coach the boys team. We started helping him coach the boys team, right? The quarterbacks first. And then he started having to do the offense. And then at our practices, these girls would come and be like, "What is this shit? What is all this what is this American football shit that we're hearing about? How come we don't get to play that?" I'm like, "No, this is a boys sport." And Coach Mike says, "Alex, you know, you're gonna have to start." And I'm talking about after like a whole week of them coming. Then after a week of them coming to the practice, I'm like, "Hell no, Coach! I don't want to start. You know, I don't want to coach girls. I could barely handle what you giving me right now. You know, and like they keep coming. You got to do it." I'm like, "I guess, dude." And bro, we started a flag football team for girls. You know what I mean? So we had the boys football team with the pads and everything, and we had the girls Delfinas with flags. And right now, to this day, those programs are still going on, bro. The Delfinas are still playing football right now. The girls and women's and the
women.
boys.
No, women's flag football is growing like crazy. I see it everywhere on social media nowadays. It is a growing market. It's exciting to see. You know, my daughters wrestled in high school, and so I just love any kind of competitive sport for women. And anytime they're breaking those barriers, you know, what men are only supposed to, I think it's exciting. So, dude, that's beautiful for you to be able to do that, man. And
so that was one of the things that I was doing, and that actually kept my head above water, kept me sane, even though it was, you know, you had to put a lot of time into it, while I was also heavily like involved in the veterans movement. You know, I was advocate.
When you say that, when you say that you're an advocate and you're helping other veterans, what's the process of that? What's day in and day out? What do you do daily to try and help other veterans? You know, what is the tasking of that?
Right now, it's a lot. Right now, it's a lot, and Robert Vivar handles that a lot. I'm just you know, how do you say? I'm one of the founding members of our group, right? Of Unified U.S. Deported Veterans, and I'm always speaking out for deported veterans, on everything and everywhere, on my social media, everything. But Robert really, man, he gets into the nitty gritty, and now, well, we find deported veterans in Mexico because we're right there at the border. We get them their IDs. You know, first we verify their DD-214s. We get them their DD-214s if we have to, and if they're recently deported, which is fucked up that they're still deporting veterans. It's fucked up, bro. They're still deporting veterans right now. After we have HR 45, we got HR 4569 on the books right now, trying to change the law, and we've got all these Democrats signing on. I don't think we have any Republicans, but right now, while we're in, dude, we just went to the White House. Like we just went to the White House.
I got that in my notes right here. It says that you just recently traveled to Washington D.C. to raise awareness about the issue. It's
in the White House, bro. I was
about
tripping
the
out.
Veterans Service Recognition Act, correct?
Yes, that's HR 4569.
Tell me about that, please.
A lot of support.
So listen, it's important for you to explain these things to our audience because these people need to know. There's a lot of people who are not aware of any of this. And so when I ask you that question, Do me a solid and tell me exactly what this is and how we can try and get more eyes on it so we can help support this.
Thank you, bro. Yes. So just recently we went to Washington, man. We were invited to the White House. Like actually got to speak not to the president, but to his staff about our plight, about our cause. They were really supportive, very, very nice. Awesome.
And what's that act? Say that act again one more time.
HR 4569. It would basically say that if you serve, you know, you get your citizenship as you graduate boot camp successfully. You graduate boot camp successfully. That means that you can be put out in the field to kill or die after that. That means that any kind of trauma can happen to you right after boot camp, even in boot camp, of course, but after boot camp, you get sworn in as a citizen. That way, if anything fucked up happens to you after that, if you fuck up in any way, okay, but you still get to stay home, you know, because you can have a traumatic experience right after boot camp by doing anything as an active duty member. You know, anything can happen to you. There's sexual assault. There's all kinds of fucked up shit that happens in the military. And you're telling me that this soldier does not deserve to be protected after he successfully completed boot camp? No, that's bullshit. That's how we fell through the cracks. Because after we completed boot camp, guess what? They shipped us off to the Persian Gulf, to Iraq, to Afghanistan, to Vietnam. And guess what? We got fucked up over there in our heads and in our spirit. And we came back fucked up with issues of alcoholism and self-medication and other things happened to us. Okay, so
yes, sir.
We need to be protected, man. And this HR 4569 would say we are protecting the new soldiers from this ever happening to them. And also we are opening up avenues for the soldiers that have already been wronged and deported, exiled. We're opening up avenues for their cases to be revisited and for them to come back home rightfully to be with their families and be home in the country that they served.
Alex, I absolutely love it. And let me tell you this, Alex, if there's ever another time you're going to be headed to DC to speak on any of this, you know, if I get an invite, I would love to support. And this is not a joke. I 100% believe in this. Whatever I can do to help be an advocate for you guys and with you guys, you know, I find that anyone who's signed that dotted line to serve this country, it's very few. It's very few out there who are willing to actually serve this country, to invest back into this great nation. The poor and the middle class serve our country, right? And so for those who are willing to do that, to reap the benefits of that, but also to reap the horrors of that at times, to not be supported by our government, to not be taken care of, right? That doesn't rub me the right way. And so I genuinely, hopefully this platform gets you a little bit more attention to your organizations that support you, to the organizations who are out there helping veterans try and come back to America and try and become citizens. And so you have my word that I will continue to support you in all your efforts and your team and your other nonprofits out there. I'm interested in trying to be a force to help you guys. Just want to make sure I get
calling you, bro.
Yeah, I want to make sure I get that out and tell you. What's your current status now?
Well, now I got my green card back. Finally, I'm basically back where I started before my whole ordeal. So now I'm going for my citizenship, man, as soon as I can. I am looking for a presidential pardon here. Pretty soon, my attorneys are gonna get started on that, and because we've got a couple of veterans with federal convictions that need presidential pardons to be able to become citizens. I am one of those. We have a couple of Lado Mesa and a couple other ones that we're working up packets for. So definitely, bro, I appreciate you. We're gonna be calling you, bro, because man, we need you, bro. We need you and anybody with your spirit, man, to back us up, man. Porfa. And thank you, bro.
And just the fact that, you know, your resiliency alone, you have nothing but my respect to be able to be exiled from America for 11 years and to come back and still have a very positive tone, still have a very positive presence. It takes a lot for someone to be able to still pursue the American dream of becoming a citizen. And, you know, I, for one, you know, am very honored to be having this conversation with you, but very proud of you. And you know, we have people in this country who have turned their back on this nation, who don't understand the opportunities that are presented to them, and you, who's someone who had their back turned on you, still are in the pursuit of becoming an American citizen. And for me, that is patriotic. That is a beautiful sentiment, and I commend you for having such resiliency.
Thank you, bro. Thank you, bro. I was made in the USA, bro. This is it. Like, this is like my American story is the story of me being deported. You know, of course it is an immigrant story, but it's also my Americanness that made me fight so fucking hard to come back. You know what I mean?
Yes,
Because
sir.
I know where my home is, man. My home is here. You know, no matter where you fucking throw me at, no matter where you throw us, you know what I mean? We always know where home is. You know, and it's right here, man. It's right here.
I also had the opportunity to talk to Livvy Lazaro. Livvy is a first-generation Mexican-American veteran. She joined the military at 17 years old and served as an Army combat medic and retired a sergeant first class after 20 years of service. Today, she is the first female post commander of VFW Post 7420, Veterans of Foreign War, in San Diego, California. The VFW is a nonprofit organization that supports veterans, the military, and communities, and their mission is to advocate for veterans and ensure that they are respected for their service. Enjoy the conversation. I read in your bio that you're a first-generation Mexican-American.
I am. My mother came here as an immigrant.
How was that?
Mm-hmm. You know, I honestly, I didn't understand a lot of it until I grew up. I didn't understand that everybody kind of didn't live in that fear of, you know, being found out that, you know, everybody's mom didn't work in the fields. They didn't have to hang out and run around. And that was everything I knew. So it just, the way that it instilled in me was like, you work hard and you have success.
Yeah. No, it's funny. So my mother as well used to work in the field. She was first generation herself, but obviously poverty, you know, everybody kind of supports the family. Everybody helps out. And so
Yes.
my grandmother was the one who came across. And if you heard the story of my grandmother, she took the identity of her sister who was born legally in America. So, you know, there's a lot of stories that are similar to that and how people either gain citizenship or come to America
Right.
and start to, you know, assimilate and have their family here. What made you so adamant about the topic of deported veterans?
That's a great question. So after doing 20 years, you know, I was pretty hua. I'm gonna toot my own horn, but I thought it was pretty high speed. You know, I took care of my soldiers and I found out resources and information. So I get out and I have my own hard time with PTSD. I end up living in Tijuana, kind of chasing my children with custody and things like that. And I'm trying to get to the VA in the middle of anxiety and everything, trying to cross the border. And I see an office that says deported veteran. And I was like, no way, we don't do that. I would know that. So I was going in there to just go regulate and stop this scam, even in the middle of my own turmoil. And I was going in there like, we don't do this. I would know, like, the military teaches us what way to face our belt, how high our socks go. So there's no way that as a lower enlisted, I never heard of it, or a senior non-commissioned officer did I ever hear, like, if you have someone, make sure they have an appointment. So I went in there trying to like regulate and came out mortified and just humiliated, humbled. I couldn't believe that we did it. And I couldn't believe that it was such a secret. Because there was no one that I had talked to that knew about it. And then when, like you said, you start digging and you're like, how long has this been going on? It's not okay.
I agree. So I never in my career experienced this whatsoever. I had one friend of mine that was in Ranger Battalion with me that he was from Cuba, and he never really mentioned his status, and I never even questioned it. He did tell me when he defected from Cuba, he was in a boat and a raft. He lost one of his friends on the journey. He swam, tried to beat out the Coast Guard, and eventually he went, you know, he touched land, he claimed political asylum, and then he eventually went to the Army recruiter. He was in the Army. So I didn't really understand immigration at the time, really didn't understand what he went through. I knew he was married to an American citizen. I knew they had kids by now. So by the time me and him really got into his background, I just assumed he gained citizenship through marriage or whatever the case. So I still never knew. Fast forward, as I'm putting myself out there, I'm talking about the immigration situation. I'm talking about border situation. One of these gentlemen from one of these nonprofits who work with helping deported veterans told me, he goes, "Hey, brother, there's a lot of deported veterans." I'm like, shut the hell up, dude. Like, no way.
Right?
And that is when he started sending me links. He started sending me some articles. He started showing me some videos, and I was blown away. I watched one of the documentaries that was on Amazon about it, and that was even more so like, whoa, how's this happening? And that's when this conversation, as we do this podcast, we started having more guests talk about it. And that is when I first, like, okay, this is a serious situation. And my question to you is, during your time in, did you ever deal with any soldiers who had immigration issues?
You know, the same. I remember we had a soldier from El Salvador. And I remember him taking leave to do some of this, because when he came back, like, we all just kind of like clapped, you know, and it was like, oh, congratulations. But it was also like right before we geared up for our second deployment, and they do citizenships a little bit faster during that time. But he had taken leave, you know, like, and anytime I ever heard, it was like if the mission allowed you to go take care of these things. But no, like, it wasn't the way we get briefed on. You have a married soldier, do this. You have a single parent, do this. Nothing like that was ever briefed.
Yeah, this topic seems to kind of take a backseat in almost every unit. I know, you know, I did another podcast. I was interviewed by another podcast that went pretty viral when I talked about this. This is something I talked about on another podcast. I don't know enough, but I do know something. So I mentioned it. I said, here's a subject in the immigration side that you might not totally hear. But there's from what I was told, there's over 400 veterans currently that have been deported. And so, somewhere around that number, right? It could be up even more, but some are not reported, however the case.
Right.
And when I said that on Twitter, it blew up. And the crazy part about that is that you have this split, like this conversation, like immigration as a whole is always split, right? You got the hard left and the hard right, and everybody's arguing, close the border, open the border, it doesn't matter. But what I found was fascinating, that people would say, well, good, deport them. And it infuriated me to think that these people don't get it. These men and women decided to volunteer their time and serve for our country. The least the country can do is help them get their citizenship before, say, they get in trouble, right? Non-immigrants, immigrants, and veterans, doesn't matter who you are. Veterans get themselves in trouble from time to time, right? They drink, right? Post-traumatic stress, doesn't matter, whatever it is. But at least those individuals who served our country will serve their time in America. That is, like, I don't care what the crime was. They should have been afforded that opportunity to at least become a citizen and then pay their punishments here in America. You know, like every other American citizen.
Exactly. And, you know, and that's what we say. It's like, they do get, the ones that do commit a crime, why wasn't the paperwork finished before they got out? The promise of citizenship is how they lured them to go into the military pathway. That's the key word, pathway. Well, before you get out, make sure that, like, with that checklist that we have to go to turn in our gear, to go to finance, did this legal permanent resident come in seeking citizenship? Then have that checklist before you leave too. They can extend us if we're missing a piece of equipment. Then they can extend to make sure that the promise of citizenship is done. They're showing us they can do it right now. Recruiting numbers are low. You don't see all these citizenship ceremonies right after basic training on the Midway, in the Air Force. Oh, so you can do it. You know how to prevent this from ever happening. When we graduate from basic training or AIT, and you put that U.S. Army, Navy, and you send them out as U.S., then you give them their just due. That would solve so many problems.
Absolutely,
right there.
Absolutely. I think it's funny you said that. Yeah, they won't let you leave the base for a 30-cent canteen cup. You know what I mean?
Or pound cap,
right?
Right.
Something that I lost, like my day one of the military. They're gonna make me pay for double, triple this dang thing, this item. But you can't do your due diligence in making sure that everyone who has joined this military under a green card with the pretenses of becoming a citizen gets their citizenship.
Exactly. So we we advocate for it under Department of Defense. We're put it as a commander's program. If you judge it as a commander's program, that commander's not going to let anybody slip by. That's how they get their ratings. Yeah. Also, legally, with HR 4569, which 3 of the tenets is after basic training, you give that citizenship. 2, build a liaison in every branch that knows exactly how it goes. This is your liaison on this post, or this is who you call. That way they know what forms, how much time you have. We have liaisons for, like I said, for everything. I used to have to go check my soldiers' apartments before they rented them. Yeah. As a leader, and you're going to tell me nobody's following this up? Because it can't be just command supported. Because what if you get a command that doesn't support it, or you see it only as immigration? Because it's not immigration. Like, this bill is a veteran bill that has immigration in it because America didn't keep its promise.
As a senior enlisted, I had to question some of the marriages that some of my soldiers were getting. Yeah, I don't know about this one, big guy. Yeah, you're like, where did you meet her? Maybe this, let's slow this down a little bit, right? Like, as a senior enlisted, I know, I've been there. You got to question some of these soldiers. You got to support these soldiers. Sometimes you got to parent these soldiers. Exactly. Some of these guys getting in the military are probably 18 years old with a green card. Those 18-year-olds probably never know how to balance a checkbook. Shit, I'm still learning how to do that. Oh, frustrating. Yeah. Tell me about your work as the commander of the VFW Post 7420. What does your guys' post do to focus on this subject?
Well, we do a lot, but let me tell you a little bit about our history. Our post, as a veteran of foreign wars post, our guys came back from World War II and Korea, and they tried to go to other veteran service organizations in the area. They're war veterans. They were not allowed because they were Mexican, because they were Hispanic. They actually got beat up, kicked out, and they did not let them join the Veterans of Foreign Wars. So they built their own. Downtown San Diego, small little one. Now we actually own 3 buildings on one of the hottest blocks in Logan Heights, Barrio Logan. And it's beautiful history. So like you see behind me, we have 61 Medal of Honor recipients. It's Hispanic American. These are stories that were not told. Some of the gentlemen on this wall received their Medal of Honor during the Obama era, earned it during World War II. Ethnicity and immigration. So one of the things we do is we advocate, and we advocate hard for our brothers and sisters who have been deported or even, repatriated. We advocate for them. We go to DC, we've been to the White House, but most importantly, we go meet them at the port of entry for repatriation. We make sure they know they have brothers and sisters that are keeping track of them, making sure they get back, if they get back and they don't have anywhere to stay, because they come back just like that, boom, with nothing. One little suitcase, no work visa, no family by then, no support, and probably not even the area. So we give them at least 3 days of a hotel, 3 days of clothes, 3 days of food, and then just camaraderie. Like, we make sure we do like a small assessment where, what do you need right now? Like, can we cover it? And what do you need long-term? Are you staying here? Are you traveling? We do fundraisers to get their flights. We do fundraisers to get them home. Even if they have to do a waiver, they have to now pay for it with no work visa. Yeah. And things like that. So we pretty provide a unit, just a resource center. You come in here, we help you. We connect you with either other VFWs, American Legions, just anything and everything that we can do to make sure that they make it back alive. Because we have many who don't. Yeah. But that's what we do. And our main thing is for them to know they feel the support. As you know, we lose 22 veterans a day. I can't even imagine the toll of the ones that are deported or still live in the streets or with no hope. So we want to make sure that all the ones we can reach, like in Tijuana, we go do Christmas parties with them and patriotic holidays. If we're having burgers and whatever, we send that down there. So they celebrate exactly the way that we do. We'll do our ceremonies on Zoom so they can participate as well. If you're a vet, you're a vet, you're a vet, wherever you are. And we take care of vets. And, we were taught we take care of our brothers and sisters no matter what. And these are the ones that need us right now.
How are they getting a hold of you? How are you even getting, like, identifying that they, you know, I'm curious about that for others, those who are listening to this know how to connect with you.
We have, like our posts, we have our Instagram, but we also work with Repatriate Our Patriots, Immigrant Defenders, ACLU. But right now, the way that we find them is like just going to look, putting out messages. We have Nick Paz, who actually is boots on the ground, going through jungles looking for our brothers.
Nick is the one that Nick is the first person to ever reach out to me and tell me this story.
Yeah, really?
Yes, Nick is the one.
I remember because I went to something with them and I was like, I had sent an email. He goes, yeah, I reached out to him and I was like, awesome. But like, we thought you would be like an advocate or just at least the facts out there. You know what I mean? Because there's a lot of myths.
No, exactly. Yeah. That's what I'm here to do. Yeah. Just give you guys the platform to tell the story. I don't think, like I said, when I told that on that other podcast, people were shocked. They're like, I've never heard of that. And they were disgusted, quite frankly. And, you know, and then you have the other side who goes, you know, who doesn't understand it and they attack it. But it's like, I think those people who don't understand it obviously also probably never served, because those who served, I think, would all agree. I actually read an article that involved your name in it as well, that said even if you want to take this subject political, you don't have to. But if you do, even in the political context of asking questions, the Republicans and Democrats and independents all agree at a high percentage. I'm talking 89% across the board agree that we need to do more for our deported veterans. Like, so this subject is almost not lost on anyone. I think everyone who hears it goes, wait a minute, we got to fix this. We got to help this scenario. I have a couple questions about some of the cases that you've been involved in or seen. What are some of the acts or the offense that they've caused to get deported? What are some of the issues that you were seeing?
Yeah, there's a lot of them. I like to talk about the crimes right off because let's just do that. So one of the women, the one woman that was deported, she served honorably combat, suffered military sexual trauma, started doing drugs, which led to harder drugs, and she got very aggressive, very violent, started fighting, just like a lot of aggravated assault with her, you know, just, I don't know what was going on. So she served jail, then she served in ICE, and then she got deported for 16 years. And
her original charge was drugs?
Specifically, I know it was like assault, but I don't know exactly what it was.
Well, I know what was going on with her. Man, when you're dealing with all that stuff and you have no support, people use drugs to cover up those emotions or to actually kind of shut off the noise that's going on in here. Yeah. And then it's a snowball effect. And some people don't even understand addiction. I understand what addiction looks like. So, okay, what else?
There's been several crimes. DUIs as an immigrant is an aggravated felony for you. So that is a deportable offense. There's been a lot of DUIs, and there's been like a lot of alcohol, drug things that have been, you know, part of the crime. But we've also had fraudulent recruiters put people in. We have David Baru from Kenya. He was fraudulently put in the army.
Really?
Then got out, served, I think it was 3-4 years. They put him out, and then he went to a lawyer, fixed everything. Then he was recruited into the Air Force and served another 6 years honorably. And somehow this was his fault, and he got deported when he went to go check in to Border Patrol. And it took us 16 years to get him back from Kenya.
Wow. What the heck? What other stories out there? I mean, I want people to hear these stories. What else?
It's true. It's like, like I said, there are crimes, but a lot of them are substance abuse. They all served honorably. I mean, I understand addiction. I went down that road. And so when I hear a lot of these stories, a lot of people judge the addiction. You know, like you said, it's numbing something, it's killing something so you can keep functioning. You know what I mean? And it's not the right thing, but we have to understand that. And then on top of the deportation, like that trauma of, they get deported and then they're in danger in the country, their native country, but the one that they don't know, because now they're Americans there.
No.
And they're highly trained, skilled Americans.
Absolutely. That's the crazy part, is they're spending so much time in America. They're working with their American brothers. They're in hopes to become citizens. And that could be 4 years, 10 years, whatever that is. And then they're getting sent back to a country that they don't even recognize. Some probably don't even speak the language at some points. I know for a fact there's a few that don't speak the language. They had to get thrown into a country they don't even know. And then they have to find a way to try and survive and then fight to get back.
And no benefits, no treatment during that time, no benefits, no health care.
Why
no
is that?
Therapy. No access to care. Even though the VA says you're still a veteran if there was a hospital there, but there's no access to care. We've asked for veterans to come back, like on appendicitis problems, things like that, just go to the VA. No, not emergent enough. But when they die 2 days later, then we can go get them and bury them in a national cemetery.
That's a question I had. So if someone serves our military and is not a citizen yet, say they have the green card,
right,
and they're over in Iraq or Afghanistan right now, maybe wherever they're going to be going here soon, the way it looks, but they get killed in combat. They don't have their citizenship yet, but are they recognized as U.S. citizens at that point once they've died for our country?
They are recognized as U.S. nationals.
Really? And so now when it comes to benefits at that point, what happens then? Do they still receive the death benefits?
They would still receive the death benefits because for the VA, that part is irrelevant as long as you are serving honorably or passed away serving.
Are they allowed to be buried in a national cemetery?
They are.
Beautiful.
Yeah. And, it is beautiful that they are, but then when we do research across America and we read everybody's names, we're never going to know that he was only there after death, that he was exiled the whole other time. That's a tragedy. That's an injustice.
No, I agree.
It's like, I'm glad that we actually have one veteran family in Tijuana who did not let the body come back because they said, for what now? Like, they needed those benefits and that care when he was alive, so you don't get him now.
If they've served our country and they get deported, do they still, if they're able to file their paperwork and claim, do they still receive disability?
Yes.
That's only if they've left the military under honorable conditions.
Correct.
And after leaving, sorry, go for it.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, so after leaving under honorable conditions, but find themselves, in a drug addiction or whatnot, there's no time can they remove or take away their VA benefits?
No. Unless the crime, is
so severe
where you end up in jail, and so severe, yes. But no, like, they still earn it even, but it took a long time. I think it took about 5 years for them to even start getting benefits if they hadn't already done it before they got out.
And so if someone, say worst case scenario, someone's in there for murder, homicide, whatever, right, they will no longer be allowed to receive their benefits. Is that correct?
No, that's correct.
Okay. So if they've, they were in drunk tank, right? They got a DUI, and then they get deported, they're still allowed to receive their benefits.
Yes. If and that's the challenge right now, because if they do get deported and they didn't do it before, none of the VSOs, the veteran service officers, were going down there or figuring it out. But they did about 5 years ago how to do the compensation and pension
online, right?
Exams online, and then certifying either some therapists or doctors in certain areas to be able to write the letters. But it took a lot of work with VA, with Department of Defense, with everybody to get it going.
Man, this is such an interesting.
One of our veterans told us he got his benefits. They sent him a check for $15,000, and he's sleeping on the ground in Tijuana. Can't open a bank account because he can't get an ID because he doesn't have his birth certificate. So he's still sleeping on the ground with like a check in his pocket for $15,000. And it's like, and now we did work out a deal where they can get some ID cards and some, their bank accounts. But you just think of those stories, what I mean? 15,000 in your pocket, you can't cash it, you can't do anything with it. So you're still.
What is the actual process? Let's start there for those listening. What's the actual process for someone becoming a citizen in the military who doesn't have their citizenship at the moment? They have to have a green card, correct? They have to have a permanent resident card.
Yes, you have to have a green card. You have to have legal permanent residence. So they would be eligible to get citizenship the regular way, or they join the military. So they're not like just migrants or illegal aliens or however it's called that come and just join it. They are already legal permanent residents that decide to serve our country.
That's a great clarification. Those who are listening, you can't just cross into the border into our country illegally and then go straight to a recruiter and get into the military. There's no process for that, or there's no program. There could potentially be a program down the road, but the point is right now, anyone who goes into that recruiting station has to have a permanent resident card, and it's not an easy feat just to get that. To get a permanent resident card, that in itself is its own challenges. There's a lot of different ways people can get their green card, but it has. I mean, there's things like you'd have to have sponsorship. You have to be married, or potentially you could be married to an American citizen. You have family that becomes a citizen, and then you're sponsoring them. Long list of ways of getting a permanent resident card. But all of those, you have to be in good standing legally with the country. And at any point you have a DUI before that, you could lose the opportunity of gaining a green card. And so they have the permanent resident card. They go to the recruiter. They swear in. From at that point, how do they gain citizenship?
So the way that it's supposed to go, at least I know, like from how it's written, because no branch has a standardized way of doing it. Right now, they're doing it at basic training. Usually it takes 3 years, at least in the Army. You serve 3 years honorably, and then at the end of that, whoever's at the end of that career part for you is supposed to track that down and make sure that all that paper. But there's no timeline, there's no month, there's no kind of standardized way of doing it right now for any of the branches.
So,
and
go ahead, please.
No, I was going to say, there's no standardized way of doing it, even though years ago, Margaret Stock, she's a JAG officer for the Army, or was retired, wrote the doctrine for it, for the Army. We did it a couple of years ago. I don't know if you remember, we were doing the big push for immigration and stuff. She wrote it back then with the 3 years in it and step by step. But it was adopted for a couple of years and then dropped again. So it's written, it's not used, and it's not enforced.
So when I was a drill sergeant, we had 3 students after basic training receive their naturalization papers. Is that not normal?
No.
Interesting. I thought that's how they did it. I was like, oh, this is cool. They get their naturalization, no big deal. That's why I guess I just blew it over in my head. I never thought of it. But I remember we had the ceremony for them as well, and 3 of them gained their citizenship.
Yeah, you come in, and then you, as the service member, are supposed to let your leadership know that this is what you need. And I'm pretty sure 18-year-old private first class is going to let his first sergeant know that he really needs to be there, not on this mission, right?
I know that.
Leave it up to the service member.
Like I said on that Twitter feed, people were going back and forth about this subject, and they were like, I have a friend that got his citizenship. Like, well, good. He had a good chain of command, and he was very adamant. But that's like 1% of everybody in the military. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
How many people screwed up their dental? How many people screwed up their, you know what I mean? Like, how many of you guys had a government travel card and screwed that up too, and bought regular tennis shoes at a Foot Locker?
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Like, exactly. And and being a veteran, you're like, you guys know better. Don't tell me you didn't know how to tell them or train them or get them to where they needed to be. Because like I said, look at how they check all that. And even like I said, our uniform, every little thing. So you should come in and be like, you know what, by the first month, you should have this done. And then you need to check this, like a liaison.
Absolutely.
Somebody
look,
that can guide them.
I felt like I was a very good NCO, and I've never once asked any of my platoons who needs help with their citizenship. Not once. Because I never thought it was an issue. It's never been brought to the forefront in any of my military history that this is a question we should ask our students. And if they don't have their citizenship, what can we do to help them get it?
Exactly. And that's exactly where I think my passion really jumped up for this, because it's like, I call BS on that, because everything you guys want us to know, like, look, this hasn't left me when you put on your hat and you put your 2 fingers like this. Come on, you showed me this. And you're not going to tell me to take care of my soldiers that don't have their citizenship? Stop it.
Yeah, if they taught us that, we would have done it. They didn't teach us that.
Exactly.
I still teach people. Yeah. I still teach people how to stand.
Like, now that we have opportunity to take care of them and we know better, then that's where we come in. Like,
I think it's the same with me. It's the same with me. The fact now that I know this exists, I can't forget it. I have to be more adamant about it, and I have to tell the world more about it, because like I said, in that tree of immigration, this branch right here stands out to me personally. I'm really affected by this. The stories that I've heard, the frustrations I have about this. I can't let it go. And I've said it before to other people I've interviewed on this topic. Like, you have me as an ally, like whatever you need from me. Questions. So Do legislators view non-citizen veterans as any threat to national security?
I don't think they see it. Well, you know what it is? It's a threat to national security as far as, yeah, when they get deported, because we were talking to Veterans of Foreign Wars DC office. And it is because they know what we were trained on. Like if they get somebody who wants to reveal that or even work with the other side, which no veteran ever has, I want to point that out.
Really?
That even though they, were betrayed by the country and they were deported, they remain so patriotic and so just hopeful to return, but prideful in their service. So no one has turned or, even used any of that. That all they've done is like, stay away from me. But they get targeted. And some of the politicians in DC think things like that.
So let's talk about the policies that are currently in place. Is there any kind of political support or policies in place that help this not happen?
Every state is kind of trying to do something called military in place parole. Every state is trying to do that, to where they get the veteran or service member on the Immigration for Veterans website. And that's helped us a lot. It's called IMVETS, and it helps us track. Like if you or your family need immigration help, log on there. That's how we know we have over 400 veterans. But at least if you log on there, we can track you now. Like you have a case number, we can track you and like follow up with everything. And that, that's how we ask them to get on IMVETS.
What are some things you'd like to see in the future, in policies that are put into place so that this doesn't happen?
I want to see the Veteran Service Recognition Act put into place. That's the one we're talking about.
Yeah.
Citizenship right after basic training. When you're going to deploy me to represent the United States with, like I said, the tag, then you make me that citizen. You make them that citizenship. Don't play with the words. These are people's lives. Pathway to citizenship. Come on, we know what that means. We'll lead you there. Doesn't mean you're going to get it. So guarantee it. Put it in the contract. Make liaisons, and then make new avenues for our deported vets to come back before they die. Like we have a Bronze Star Purple Heart recipient, deported 35 years.
Really? Where's that at?
Tijuana. What's
his name?
Benito.
Yeah.
But I can't remember his last name.
Yeah, I'd love to know more about Benito, because that's someone I should probably go down there and see him. Is what I want to do. I see the concern if you make people citizens after basic training, then I guess the fear would be that they don't fulfill out the rest of the contract or whatever. So I see the 3 years as well. But if you're sending one overseas, I think you almost have to give them citizenship. So if something the worst happens, that they're still treated as an American citizen. It's a complex, it's a tough situation, but I don't think anyone should get out of the military without gaining citizenship.
Definitely. Yeah, definitely. And it's like one of the things, like not fulfilling the contracts. But if you look at statistics, immigrant veterans actually make careers out of their service, more so than just American borns.
No,
we'll serve a few years.
Yeah, no, I
20% of our immigrants are Medal of Honor recipients. It's like, they're kind of showing us out a little bit here.
Trust me, I've had a few sergeant majors that still barely spoke English. Sorry, I didn't. Yeah, I didn't understand you, Sergeant Major. What was that?
Yeah.
Well, that's beautiful.
One of the biggest things that I want people to remember is like this bill or this movement, it's about our veterans. Like, yes, it has immigration in there, but let's not split hairs on that. They were promised citizenship. They weren't like coming and not qualified to earn it. They were already qualified as legal permanent residents. They chose to pledge loyalty to our country and serve in order to get it a little bit faster. And that's okay if you're doing what we're doing and the training we're doing, that's okay. I'm okay with it. Just keep the promise, and at least do not let them get out of the service, their contract without it.
I agree. No, I think it's good. And I think any last words that besides that was perfect. Anything else you want to add to that? Because I think we've answered a lot of questions for people listening. I think like I said, this should be a no-brainer for everyone to support. And obviously the polls have shown that left, right, independent all agree. We should all focus more on getting these veterans back and making sure that they get their citizenship before getting out of the military. Anything else you want to add to that?
It's like, get in touch with your DC representatives. Let them know you stand behind your brothers and sisters as veterans, and even for part of the veteran organization. let them know, like American Legion already supported it. VFW supports it nationally. That's 1.4 million members and 1.8 million members. So we're just like, you know, we know how to take care of our brothers and sisters. So go ahead, sign this because we know them. You know, up in DC, y'all might have served a little bit, a couple of you, but we know how to take care of brothers and sisters. So let's call the DC office. Let's talk to those politicians. They want to get, they want to say they support patriots. They're patriotic. They support veterans. And show us.
Thank you for listening to Borderland, an Ironclad original. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe. Go check us out on YouTube at This Is Ironclad.